I'm very conscious actually standing here today that in many ways, not just the BBC, but the media industry has got a complete embarrassment of riches when it comes to recruiting new talent. I mean, call it the X Factor syndrome or what you will, but this world is stuffed full of young people who want to work in the media. And as a result, one of the programmes that we might run at the BBC for 10 places in journalism or 10 places in production will attract 4,500 applicants per programme. And of those 4,500, you bet your bottom dollar a fair good percentage will be Russell Group and will be Oxbridge. And also to compound that, you will find a lot of people in the industry who are prepared to take on these graduates for free after they graduate. So you can see systemically in our industry, there's quite an interesting way of historically recruiting talent that has led us to have a very narrow-based workforce. I mean, of course, we all want the best graduates, we all want the very best talent, but actually when it is quite so narrow as it has become in the broadcasting industry, there is a real issue that we need to think about. I mean, Alan Milburn's report on social mobility in the professions singled out broadcasting and journalism as the most socially exclusive industry of all in the UK. And given the fact we're up against High Court judges and MPs and the lot, that is quite an achievement. From our perspective, from my perspective, the BBC's, and I think from the industries, of course it's about doing the right thing, but I think it's also about a business need. And the business need's really clear for us. We're funded by a licence fee. It's a universal fee that everyone pays. And our view is, because of that, everyone should have a right to have a chance of working in our industry. If you look at creativity and innovation, which is the lifeblood of what we do, you only get that if you get a myriad of perspectives and experience. And however brilliant the very, very best graduates are, they do tend to come from a particular perspective and a particular background. Not exclusively, but it tends to be the case. Going on to what David said, I think is really important in the STEM areas. Having said we've got this massive choice, we haven't in the STEM areas because we're up against what we call the Google effect, which means that the price for talent is going up and up and up, and there's not enough people coming out of schools with the talent. So what we're very interested in is chasing that talent down through the pipeline. And I really like that word. I think it is a pipeline. It's not about a series of one-off events. So for all those reasons, over the last few years, the BBC has become much more involved in the apprenticeship agenda. For us, it's a space where we can absolutely engage with non-graduate talent in a way that means they're not competing with the very best from the Russell Group universities. And also, crucially, we can grow our own employability skills. Because I don't know how many of you here are kind of involved in the agenda of employability. An awful lot of graduates that come out are brilliantly well educated, but actually when it comes to the very basics of how you get on in industry and how you do well, sometimes the education system, in our view, is not necessarily churning out those kind of high-end employability skills. So we've never done it before, and in some ways I think this has been a real benefit for where we joined the game, because we didn't know the rules around how to run an apprenticeship, and we caught it right at the moment when employer ownership was becoming more in vogue. So we were basically, with some government help in terms of funding around employer pilot funding, we've been allowed to do quite a lot of things, I think, which have broken a few rules and have been quite innovative, but not realised that this is the case because we didn't know what the rules were in the first place. So I'm going to talk you briefly through those and then just mention one programme we run, which I think is an example of how we can build social inclusion around apprenticeships. So I'll run through that very, very quickly. A few things that we learnt along the way. We are a high graduate industry, but apprenticeships are not about creating a second tier of a workforce. We basically want to employ apprentices who will compete with graduates for those high-end jobs. That's absolutely fundamental to us. So we want to see them in content roles, in journalism roles, and in technology, and over time being the industry's leaders. Absolutely passionate about designing the qualifications for ourselves. And this has caught very much a zeitgeist, I think, at the moment around employer ownership. I mean, we've been doing it with graduate trainees for decades, and it didn't seem to us at all strange to think to go into this space and actually try to kind of work with apprenticeships in the same way. So in technology, we've developed a programme in collaboration with Channel 4, with ITV, with Archive, with Red Bee, a collaboration with different universities across the UK, pulling all of that together into a degree-level apprenticeship, which will deliver up to 200 broadcast engineers for our sector over a 5-year period. Massive skills gap. We were told we couldn't do it to bring the academic and the industry sector together, but actually, surprisingly, those elements have come good for us. In journalism, we're just designing apprenticeships with ITV, with Sky, with the Evening Standard, with the print media, around the government's trailblazers, because, you know, in terms of journalism, if you've got those people in the room, then you know what it is that you need that qualification to do. High quality and high ambition. That's why we really like the higher apprenticeship agenda, because again, it comes down to this fact that we want our apprentices to compete in our world, and our world has for too long been just graduate entry, so they've got to be high quality experiences. It also, I've mentioned briefly, the kind of involving the sector. If a young person's coming to us for a qualification, our belief is that qualification has to be portable. And the only way you get portability is involving, I think, all the organisations, or a vast range of them in your sector, to take part in developing that qualification so we all recognise it. I mean, now in the area of production coordination, which is, it's the logistics of programme making. So it's not the creative who comes up with the idea, it's someone who makes the money work and gets everybody to the right place on time. The head of production at ITV, the head of production at the BBC, the director of production at Endemol, all were involved in designing that qualification. Not just playing a bit part around the table, but rolling their sleeves up and doing it. And that, I think, is fundamental. The only other thing, I think, in terms of, you know, the big important things for us as well, was how on earth we involve and integrate into apprenticeship programmes industry training. Because at BBC, in our normal way of working, we will do 50,000 plus days of industry training a year for the BBC and the sector. We'll train our graduate trainees, and we'll trade a huge range internationally and commercially. But when it comes to apprenticeships, certainly so far we found it quite difficult to work how the kind of funding flows and how we work with Ofsted and all the complexity that will go with that as in terms of integrating our training. So we're still working on that, but it is an aspiration. Just finally, the big challenge for us, and I think it is true for quite a few employers who are going into higher end apprenticeships, is how we avoid the trap of just diverting people who should go to university, it's right they go to university, into an apprenticeship. Because I think social inclusion is about reaching out to a different and a wider constituency. If you look at one programme we're running, which I'm particularly proud of, it's very small at the moment because it's a pilot. It's a pre-apprentice programme that we've done in conjunction with the Stephen Lawrence Trust and job centres in London, where we have searched high and low, and it's been a real long haul to find the right candidates with really, really low academic achievement, but who are passionate and have some kind of spark. And we've invested in a 3-month programme where they learn all about production end to end, they go to college for all their employability skills, and over that 3 months, they come out of the end a very different product from the young kid that went in at the beginning. Now, the aim is then, if they pass that, and they have to pass, they get fast-tracked to the front of the queue to the final interview process for a BBC apprenticeship. That's a model we want to scale up around the UK, and we're just going through the final assessments, and I know at least, you know, more than half of them are going to make it, which is amazing from where they started from. It was brought home to me at the kind of graduation ceremony we did for them, where a young lad who got the top award for the trainee, the pre-apprentice trainee, who'd been in prison for 2 years, and he got the top award. He'd not only turned up on time, he'd turned up early, and he'd been the best student. And when he graduated, his mother sat at the back of the room and she cried. Now, I mean, I think we can talk about models and we can talk about everything, and it's absolutely right because you've got to get it work. But I think social mobility is about changing those kind of lives and finding that raw talent that might otherwise not make it if you didn't offer these kind of opportunities. So we're very new to the game, but hopefully we'll kind of develop more as things go through. And yes, thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to talk.
Thank you.